45,000. That's how many times FaithFi referred a listener to a certified Kingdom advisor last year. And for good reason. These are trusted financial, legal, and accounting professionals who have completed a rigorous certification program to ensure biblically wise financial advice as part of their practice. You can find a local CKA professional in your area by going to faithfi.com and clicking on the Find a CKA button on the homepage.
We are grateful for support from Eventide Investments on the Faith and Finance program. Eventide's approach to values-based investing is grounded in the belief that humankind was created in the image of God, with intrinsic dignity, value, and worth. Eventide calls this investing that makes the world rejoice. More information is available at eventideinvestments.com. That's eventideinvestments.com.
American Family Radio. I'm Rob West. We're taking your calls and questions, 800-525-7000. We'd love to hear from you. Before we head back to the phones, it's Monday, which means our good friend Bob Dahl stops by. Bob is Chief Investment Officer at Crossmark Global Investments, where investments and values intersect. And he joins us each Monday with his market commentary and outlook. Bob, top of the week to you, sir. Good to have you.
The same to you, my friend.
Bob, boy, a lot going on, I'll tell you, between the markets, the rally, the Fed pause, the market's response to that, and everything in between. Where do you want to start today?
Boy, great question. It's nice and quiet today with the market closed. Maybe we start there. Gives us a chance to kind of sort things out. You're right, the rally, which has been going on for a while now, has been impressive. You'll recall we were stuck between 3,800 and 4,200 on the S&P 500 for literally almost a year, Rob.
Yeah.
And then in the last couple of weeks, we've broken out. Now we're 4,400. Despite the news still being mixed, the economy is okay, but there's signs that they're weakening. Our earnings expectations continue to be lackluster. Fed's realizing that their fight on inflation is not over. So there are a lot of cross currents here, but the market seems to think all news is good news.
Apparently. Can we read this market action to indicate that investors really are convinced that the central bank is about done with hikes and, in fact, rate cuts are just around the corner?
It would seem so, although if you look at the inflation numbers, they're down, but in the last 6 months, they've only come down a bit. They've got a long way to go to get to the Fed's target of 2. And Chair Powell, in his testimony after they paused this last meeting, went out of his way to say, we're not done. We got a lot more work to do, but the market seems to be ignoring that. The cuts that the market has been anticipating into next year, I think, are very questionable.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Bob, as we just look at the health of the U.S. economy, obviously the jobs market is key, the health of our employment here in this country. I know we got some data recently. What did you make of that?
Yeah, the jobless claims, which, as you know, come out every week. Week before last, they moved up a noticeable notch, and we're at that same higher level in last week's report. All that tells us that there is some slowing in the labor markets. They're still strong, unemployment's still low, no question about it, Rob. But the really good news in the labor market seems to be increasingly in the rearview mirror.
Yeah, very good. Bob, we've talked extensively just about how narrow these rallies have been leading up to this point. Has the recent market action indicated that we're seeing this with more breadth?
I'm glad you brought that subject up. There's no question the market has broadened out, but I'm going to underline the word some. It's still not convincing. It's better than getting narrower, no question about that. But relative to history, the market is still very narrow, as represented by the percentage of stocks that are going up, the percentage of stocks that are up year to date, that the average stock this year is so far behind the market. The average stock up 3 or 4%, the S&P 500 up 14 or 15%. That's a dichotomy that's going to take a lot of work to correct.
Yeah, and I guess that puts you in a challenging spot, because I assume you would agree that stocks are expensive here, just given everything we have potentially coming down the pike. And so you've got to be really picky about the stocks you're investing in, huh?
You do. You have to be very picky and or believe that inflation is going to continue to come down a fair amount. I mean, the P/E earnings ratio on the U.S. stock market is now 22 times earnings. It's only sold there twice in modern history, at the tech bubble and in the pandemic, as earnings estimates were coming down.
Interesting.
So I don't want to hang my hat on that one either, Bob. I don't want to sound overly pessimistic, but I hope my caution's coming through.
Yeah, no question about it. Well, Bob, appreciate you checking in, my friend. Always insightful to hear what you're thinking about as we watch this market and the economy. We'll have you back next week and look forward to it.
Have a great week.
All right, that's Bob Dahl, Chief Investment Officer at Crossmark Global Investments. He joins us each Monday with his market analysis. By the way, if you'd like to check out his weekly market commentary and sign up to have it delivered to your inbox free of charge, you can do that at crossmarkglobal.com. It's called The Dahl's Deliberations. All right, back to the phones as we round out our final segment here of the broadcast today with your calls and questions at 800-525-7000 to Michigan. Hi, Adam. Thanks for your patience. Go ahead.
Yes, I'm trying to figure out a company. I know they exist. I've heard you mention a few of them, but I just can't recall their names. But they asset management companies for retirement that are Christian-based.
Yes. So you may be thinking of LightPoint Portfolios. So they're a faith-based investing solution specifically for retirement plans. And I think that may give you what you're looking for. It could offer you a 401k or a 403b option to make available through your work, but specifically with faith-based portfolios inside it.
Okay, alrighty. What was that name again?
Yep, it's LightPoint Portfolios, and you'll find them on the web at lightpointportfoliosolutions.com. lightpointportfoliosolutions.com.
Alrighty, thank you.
All right, we appreciate your call, Adam. God bless you, my friend. 800-525-7000. We may have room for one or two more questions today. If you have a financial question you've been considering. As we round out the broadcast today, let me make a comment or two about this topic that we tackle here on this program each day, and that is the idea of handling money God's way. As we recognize our role as stewards, we want to look to Scripture to take our cues for how we should manage God's money. And we need to recognize there's a pretty significant dichotomy between the world's way and God's way when it comes to handling money. And there are many benefits to handling money God's way. Our first and foremost benefit, I think, as I've really thought and prayed and counseled folks around these ideas for a long time, is handling money God's way ultimately leads to a deeper relationship with the Lord. You see, folks, following biblical principles in your financial choices means you're listening closely to what God wants for you. You're reading His Word. You're trusting Christ to lead you. When you invite God into this important area of your life, I think you'll begin to understand what 1 Timothy 6 refers to as godliness with contentment is great gain. And we realize there's great gain in a deeper relationship being fostered with the Lord through our money management. Another benefit that comes with choosing God's way for your finances, I believe, is peace. And the more you know God's heart about money and possessions, the more your actions and your attitudes can begin to line up with His truth. And when your financial choices are made in Christ, the result is peace because God is in control. Let me take you to Romans 8:6. It says, "The mind governed by the flesh is death, but the mind governed by the Spirit is life and peace." While worldly desires and attitudes will lead people astray, pursuing God's way in your financial life, can really ultimately bring spiritual growth. As you grow in godly wisdom, you'll understand that money is a tool to accomplish God's purposes. 1 Peter 2:1-3 gives us this advice. Let me read it for you. It says, "Therefore, rid yourselves of all malice and all deceit, hypocrisy, envy, slander of every kind. Like newborn babies, crave pure spiritual milk, so that by it you may grow up in your salvation, now that you have tasted that the Lord is good." So it will lead to spiritual growth in addition to peace and, of course, a deeper relationship with the Lord. But a fourth benefit to handling money God's way is the blessing of generosity. You see, our God is the ultimate giver. And giving is definitely part of God's plan for the Christian life. You see, when we give willingly and generously, we're acknowledging God's lordship over everything. We're driving a stake in the ground and saying, God, it all belongs to you, and I want to give as an act of worship. 1 Chronicles 29:14 says it this way, "For everything is from you, and we only give you what we have received from you." And so again, we're returning to God a portion of what he's entrusted to us. It's not that 10% is God's and 90% is ours. No, 100% is his. Our giving just allows us to acknowledge that by holding it loosely and giving it back to him. And Jesus himself confirms the blessings of generosity when he said in Luke 6:38, "Give and you will receive. Your gift will return to you in full, pressed down, shaken together to make room for more, running over and poured into your lap." The amount you give will determine the amount you get back. Now, take note here that whatever you get back from your giving isn't just for you to accumulate, but for you to continue giving. So, what do your actions and attitudes about money reveal about you? If you're sold out to Jesus, following the Lord with all your heart, well, it's going to show in your financial choices. You can make your financial decisions according to God's principles, or you can choose to make them according to secular, worldly ideas. I've only mentioned a few of the benefits of following God's principles here. There's a lot more, and you can read all about them in God's Word, the Bible. So take some time to dig into Scripture today and discover what riches of wisdom he has in store for you. I hope that's an encouragement to you. Thanks for being along with us today on the broadcast. We're grateful for the time you've spent with us. Hope you have a great rest of your day, and come back and join us tomorrow. Let me say thanks to my amazing team. I couldn't do it without them. We're grateful for Adam and Robin and Jim and all the folks that make this daily broadcast of faith and finance possible here on American Family Radio. Go out and live for Jesus, and let us know how we can serve you. You can check out more on this ministry at faithfi.com. We'll see you tomorrow.
The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast may not necessarily reflect those of the American Family Association or American Family Radio.
90.5 KTXG Greenville, Dallas.
Fed up with the trash our children are exposed to, such as TV shows, movies, and music?
I've had it up to here. Absolutely. It breaks my heart. 1 Million Moms is a community of moms who are successfully standing against the evils of the entertainment media. Can I really make a difference? You can. Visit 1millionmoms.com.
This is American Family Radio, a listener-supported ministry of the American Family Association.
American Family News, I'm Rusty Pugh. The top Republican says there will be additional key witnesses called in the House Oversight Committee's sweeping inquiry into alleged influence peddling by the Biden family. Committee Chairman James Comer over the weekend accused the deep state bureaucracies of turning a blind eye to Biden family business dealings and contended that his panel had made headway despite resistance from federal agencies under the current Democratic administration.
I think we've done as much as we could do with the obstacles we've had to overcome. No one thought I would get bank records. No one thought we would get access to the Treasury Cabinet's suspicious activity reports, but we have. We would not take no for an answer. We kept fighting, and we prevailed. What we know from our informants and from our sources in the FBI is that the FBI never investigated this. this.
Secretary of State Anthony Blinken wraps up his visit to China by meeting with the Chinese president. The meeting comes amid high tensions between China and the U.S. Speaking at the U.S. Embassy in Beijing, Blinken called for more communication between the two countries' militaries, but admits that doesn't have support from the Chinese. While the latest woke Disney movie was a flop at the box office over the weekend, a new movie that talks about the realities of young people trying to, quote, transition to a different sex, but later change their minds, has been banned by AMC theaters. The movie is called No Way Back. Laura Becker is one of the ladies featured in the film.
We have a plethora of young girls and boys, but girls especially, that are having identity issues, normal issues through puberty, or more severe issues with autism, trauma, mental health issues. And they are going into clinics and saying, I need help with my gender dysphoria. And they're being fast-tracked on a conveyor belt-like system to getting surgery and hormones, which create permanent damages instead of addressing their actual mental health concerns.
Southern Baptist messengers from around the country are back home after spending 2 days in New Orleans for their annual meeting. Steve Jordahl was there and has a look back.
The Southern Baptist Convention's annual meeting was held in New Orleans, the birthplace of modern jazz. It's a music that demands improvisation, quick thinking, and teamwork with fellow musicians, and those qualities were on display among the messengers that gathered last week. The media has been focusing on what Baptists think about the role of women in the church, but a lot of other things happened that are just as important, even if ignored. Resolution 8 was particularly timely.
I move that the convention adopt Resolution number 8 on opposing, quote, gender transitions, unquote. Those in favor have it. The resolution is adopted.
Pastor John Lang and SBC President Art Barber there. It denounced gender mutilation, specifically for children. Jason Thacker of the Ethics and Religious Liberty Commission was behind the first call for ethical boundaries for artificial intelligence from a faith-based perspective.
It's something that we're dealing with. It's something that we are in our churches, in our seminaries, in our schools. No longer is AI something out there, but it's actually something that's deeply already influencing and shaping how we think about what does it mean to be human.
But the biggest applause of the week was when IMB President Paul Chitwood introduced the dozens of missionaries commissioned to take the gospel to the uttermost parts of the earth.
Today we get the honor of sending 79 of the newest members of your home team, the IMB missionaries, who will share the gospel with people and in places where Jesus is not known or named.
I'm Steve Jordahl.
The niece of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. says that while we must remember that racism is an ugly part of America's past, we must acknowledge that good things have happened. Dr. Elvita King was reflecting on today's Juneteenth celebration.
And so we remember that there are people throughout America's history who are abolitionists, who believe in the American dream and want all of us to remember that we are created in the image and likeness of God and that we are equal. So celebrating that freedom.
More news online at afn.net and download the AFN mobile app for your Apple or Android device. I'm Rusty Pugh.
Too busy to catch your favorite shows on the radio? Have no fear, because the AFR app is here. Download the app to have access to live broadcast, music streaming, as well as each podcast. Whether you're at work, at home, or on the go, it's easy to listen to AFR. The AFR app is available not only for Apple and Android users, but also on Amazon Alexa and Roku. Download the AFR app today at afr.net. Welcome to Today's Issues, offering a Christian response to the issues of the day. Here's your host, Tim Wildman, President of the American Family Association.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Today's Issues on the American Family Radio Network. Thanks for listening to AFR. It is Monday, June the 19th. Again, thank you for listening. Good morning, Ed Battagliano.
Good morning, Tim Wildman.
Good morning, Fred Jackson.
Good morning. Good Monday to you.
Well, thank you. It's good to be back in the saddle. Had our June Washington, D.C. / Mount Vernon tour last week with 55 all of them were supporters of American Family Association.
Spiritual Heritage Tour.
Yeah, we went to all the sites in D.C. and then also went to George Washington to Mount Vernon on Saturday. Wonderful folks, had a great time, great weather. Didn't have any of this smoke.
Oh, it had all moved off.
Right. You know, previously, the week before, Washington, D.C. had been affected by the Canadian wildfires. I don't make the news, I just report it. And the fire smoke did come down from Canada.
You let the cinders fall where they may, you know?
And New York City, and we know what happened there with the thick smoke. But anyway, that wasn't there. We had a great weather time, and so it was a great time to be with our folks and support our ministry. And we do that twice a year. September's sold out. So folks want to go with us, they'll have to wait till next year, 2024.
Or maybe you should just go once a month.
I couldn't handle that, man.
That's a lot of work for those tours.
Yeah, it is. All right. So what was the top story you guys talked about last week while I was away?
Fred and I talked hockey for most of the week.
Is that why we don't have any listeners left? Except in Minnesota?
Ed behaved himself.
I did.
Okay.
There was no smoking rabbits.
No smoking. No rabbits on fire.
No rabbits on fire.
I thought about this. When Tim goes away, then the people who get upset listening to us talk will aim their fire at Ed.
Yes,
they do. But he provokes them.
Yeah, because
この辺でいつものところで車磨いてるから、あそこで白い車のとこ、そうで車磨いてるから。
Speaking of Facebook and our own live streaming service, if people want to join us on the internet, what can they do there, Ed?
Well, they can go to Facebook Live and click through when you search for today's issues. That's the name of this program. And you can watch the live video stream. You can do that for a lot of our talk radio programs. Or you can go to our own streaming platform. That's streaming.afa.net. Streaming.afa.net.
Right.
And you can set up an account. It's very simple to do that. And then you can not only watch the live stream video for this program, there's a lot of great content, video content that you can access to.
Absolutely. Speaking of the weather, we talked about the smoke that impacted the eastern seaboard last couple of weeks from the Canadian fire spread. Also, a lot of action in the southwest, or I guess what you call the heartland and the southeast, right?
Yeah, last week was northern Texas. Samaritan's Purse, other relief organizations were getting into northern Texas where they had tornado problems in the last 10 days. Now, last night, in the last 24 hours, we just found out this morning there was a tornado in Jasper County, Mississippi. At least one person killed there. And Overnight. Okay. This has just been a string of bad weather, including going through our home base here in Tupelo. It's just waves and waves of this. And apparently that's the way it's going to be for the foreseeable future.
Did you see the size of some of the hail? From
softball size, not baseball.
Some in Texas. You talking about Texas?
No, in Mississippi, I know that.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it when I saw the size of the hail. You're talking about, anything above like a golf ball will do serious damage.
Yes.
The roofs and cars.
I don't care what your roof is made out of. You get hit with hail that's that size, it's going to see some serious damage.
Yeah.
And Mississippi, there's still about 49,000 people without power in the Jackson central area of the state.
Yeah.
They've been hit hard. Lots of rain, just endless rain.
It's just, this kind of weather is usually reserved for the spring.
That's what I was thinking.
Yes.
We're approaching summer in a couple of days.
Right. April, May. For people who live in the heartland and the South, they're used to, and some of the Midwest states, they're used to, thunderstorms and tornadic weather and flooding and things of that nature. But June,
by now.
Yep.
All right, next story.
All right. Well, our U.S. Secretary of State, Anthony Blinken, finally had his visit this weekend with Chinese leaders. You remember it was scheduled several months ago, but then that Chinese, what was called a weather balloon, turned out to be a spy balloon, but the Biden administration let that balloon just cruise across the United States, taking pictures of all our military establishments. And then when the Chinese were through doing that, then we took that balloon down over the Atlantic. So that kind of delayed things. The relationships between the United States and China, one Chinese official described it this weekend as being probably the worst it has been in years. And that is because a lot of people say that China believes they have a very weak opponent now in the Biden administration. Mike Gallagher is chairman of the sitting committee, House Committee on China. This was his assessment of Blinken's visit to China this weekend. It's cut number 7.
But the Chinese Communist Party also gave Blinken an ultimatum. They said America needs to choose between dialogue and confrontation and cooperation and conflict, which is, of course, absurd because there's only one side here choosing confrontation and risking conflict. There's only one side bullying and threatening Taiwan, one side committing genocide, one side still covering up a devastating pandemic. So we have to push back on this message from the Chinese Communist Party that they're somehow anything less than cooperation with the world order they desire is choosing conflict.
Yeah, and part of that world order they desire, Chinese leadership is meeting with basically a Venezuelan dictator. They met last week with Mahmoud Abbas, the head of the Palestinians. They're becoming the broker, or want to become the broker, of Middle East peace. These are things where America stood strong, has been the leader through the years, but a lot of people are starting to get worried. China is seeing itself as the arbitrator of world peace, and they're making alliances with people that normally we would be very concerned about, but the Biden administration appears to be just letting it go.
As a worldwide superpower, this is arbitrary, subjective, I know, but it seems like to me China's pulled even with the United States, or maybe ahead. In terms of, by that I mean worldwide influence. And because the Chinese are all over Africa.
Yes.
With buying up minerals and all these, what would you call them? Well, minerals, basically.
Natural resources.
Natural resources, as you say, they play a big part in the Middle East now, buying oil from Middle Eastern countries. And what do you think, Ed?
Well, they can't project military power worldwide like the U.S. can. However, they are doing the next best thing, all right? In terms of I'd say the next best thing from the perspective of how do you advance China's stature in the world. So they have expanded their military to an extremely high degree in terms of the Western Pacific being able to defend themselves if they get in a war with the U.S. and being able to push their weight, throw their weight around in their own region. Now, they can't send carrier fleets and large-scale, combat divisions into Europe or anything like that. But what they are doing is they are trying to hem the United States in. That's why they're coming to our own hemisphere. Venezuela. We were talking about potential spy base in Cuba. And then they're going, and this is very crafty, they're going to places like the Middle East, obviously Muslim, with the exception of Israel. And I think what they're doing is they are going to these Muslim nations, North Africa probably too, and saying, look at the United States. Look at their current administration. They're having an entire month dedicated to homosexual pride. They put the pride flag on the White House, didn't even elevate their own American flag like their flag code states must happen if the U.S. flag is with a group of other flags. They are promoting into your nation, Muslim nation, this radical transgender ideology, this homosexual ideology, and they are not respecting your beliefs. And I think that's going to win people over. I think that's going to win nations over. They may not like everything about China, but at least China's not doing in their countries and doing to the United Nations what the U.S. is doing, which is an affront. We talked about in our story meeting, the same thing with a lot of these African countries. The U.S. is pushing the far left ideology, and they're not winning people over. So China's saying, fine, we'll do it. And we'll influence other countries.
This is kind of breaking news. Antony Blinken, our Secretary of State, just wrapping up his meeting with President Xi of China. And I want you to have a listen to this clip. If I'm hearing right here, he said the U.S. does not support Taiwan independence. Now, I want you to have a listen to this. This is one of the...
You haven't heard this before either.
I have.
This just happened?
This just happened. So it's cut 16.
On Taiwan, I reiterated the long-standing U.S. One China policy. That policy has not changed. It's guided by the Taiwan Relations Act, 3 joint communiques, the 6 assurances. We do not support Taiwan independence. We remain opposed to any unilateral changes to the status quo by either side. We continue to expect the peaceful resolution of cross-strait differences.
Now, who was that?
That's our Secretary of State, Antony.
Oh, that was him?
Yes.
Okay,
Apparently he had a news conference after meeting with President Xi.
Okay, he said maintain status quo, and then he said, but we're not for Taiwan's independence. What does that mean?
So this is part of the difficulty of U.S. policy on Taiwan, is they have tried over, 1949 is when the communists took over in China. The U.S. has tried to maintain a little bit of a balancing act. The communist Chinese believe that Taiwan is Chinese property, that it's a rebellious province. The U.S. has, I think, behind the scenes told China, don't try to take it, because that would be an act, we would enter into the conflict if you tried to do that. However, publicly, they have said there is a one China policy, and they expect mainland China and the Taiwanese government to work out their differences. But in terms of reiterating this after a meeting with the Chinese leadership, I don't know what's going on in terms of this administration. Listen, I wouldn't be surprised if the Chinese, all these allegations about Biden family business in China, okay, I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't have something, at least on Hunter. So that was not anything totally new, but in the context of meeting with Xi Jinping, I wouldn't be surprised if he said, you better come out and make it clear that you're not advocating Taiwan's independence. I don't even think Taiwan does that in terms of declaration.
I'm sorry, did you say have something on Hunter?
I'm just they're saying the part of the show's liberal.
So there's something else we don't know about Hunter Biden?
Well,
after the laptop from hell?
And I didn't want to say anything about Joe Biden himself.
Right. Big guy, you mean?
Big guy. Because, listen, the Chinese play to win. And if they have something on the Biden family, I wouldn't be surprised if they say, if you do this, geopolitically speaking,
right,
we'll ruin you. We'll release whatever we've got.
Your poll numbers will go down below 10.
Yes.
Percent approval rating in your own country.
Yes.
If you do. Well, in all seriousness, that you could be right. Who knows? But we do know that Hunter Biden, when his dad was vice president, remember the story about him? It was documented. He flew over there on Air Force 2, I guess, with his dad, who was VP, and he went over there to broker business deals for himself. That's what he was doing over there.
That's unfair. Joe Biden has made it clear he knew nothing about Hunter Biden's business.
Well, now, if he told me that today, I might believe him.
Oh, yeah.
Huh? In the state of mind he's in today. But
nobody believes they flew all the way over to China, and Joe Biden never asked his son about business.
No,
that's absurd.
We all know that's not true. But to your point, and it's a serious one, you have to wonder sometimes. Well, do the Chinese have something that they're holding over the head of the Biden administration,
right?
So that they're able to do what they want to with impunity, short of, I guess, invading Taiwan. But who knows? That may happen sometime soon. But I did find this interesting. If you can believe, what the Chinese say, you have to. What did Reagan say? Trust and verify.
Trust and verify.
I did see a quote from one of the top military leaders of the China, maybe the top military leader. He was in the news about a week ago, 10 days ago, and he said any kind of military conflict or war between the United States and China would be catastrophic.
Yes,
and that is true for the world. We don't. So neither country, I think, wants to engage militarily, but each country, the U.S. and China, I'm talking about, has its own interest globally that they need to protect as well. Go ahead.
I think one thing for sure is that the Chinese do regard the Biden administration as weaker than the Trump administration. You remember when that spy balloon, so-called weather, turned spy? The Biden administration, first thing they said, well, this was been happening for a long time. They had
even under Trump.
Yes, that was wrong. And then we had the news in the last few weeks about the spy station in Cuba. The Biden administration said initially, that's been going on for years. But they had to walk that back last week. It has not been going on for years. So there is clear evidence that China believes it can really push the envelope right now on what it's doing with regards to military establishments, what it's doing with regards to spying on American installations, and they just don't think Biden is going to kick back very hard.
Which makes the next 18 months or so very dangerous.
Yes.
Because the Chinese, unless they think that Joe Biden is a cakewalk to get reelected, which I don't think anybody does, okay, they know they risk a flipping of the party in control of the White House. And you do not want a strong conservative in the White House directing U.S. foreign policy and military engagements if you want to take Taiwan.
Yeah.
And if you want to take Taiwan and go through...
But do you think that, I know we are getting into a little bit of speculation here, but maybe a lot, but do you think the American people would support a military engagement over Taiwan? In other words, do you think American people would support us going to full-scale war with China over Taiwan?
I don't.
Okay, I don't either.
I don't.
So China knows that, probably. You know what I'm saying?
That's what I'm saying. If they're going to do something, they're going to have to do it before the election in 2024.
Yeah. Anyway, we live in perilous times.
Yeah,
that we do. You guys talked about the big guy and the whole Hunter Biden.